Okay, so another thing about like the victim blaming culture at Lifeboat. Say you report something, and you know something's off, something's wrong, something's creepy, and the organization uses their employees to go attack on the person reporting something creepy, victimization, abuse, sexual harassment, innuendo. Basically, the people who were hired by Lifeboat to bully me include Joshua Stellman, the attorney for the Antio and Zadara people and the attorney for community property management. So he was hired to bully me, to silence me and say nothing bad is ever happening to homeless women. Nothing discriminatory is ever happening, and nothing of a sexually harassing nature is ever happening. And that is deeply out of touch with homeless communities. I don't know if he's ever talked to a homeless person when he's sitting up in his office. He needs to go on a walk and do a little research before he comes at me with such fantastical premises. But let's see, the victim blaming culture where the workers of Lifeboat are encouraged to participate in the retaliation, participate in the victim blaming, participate in the culture of predation under that leadership is just, it's bizarre and it's sad because, say, someone like Monica, like one day I ran into Monica's daughter at the gas station. And I'm just like, oh, I love your mom. She's so sweet. I wish she would take it over because this is before she'd kind of gone after me at Ozark's behest, like where she has to be mean to me to keep her job. But before that, you know, she showed all these great qualities of being very kind and patient and reasonable. And I thought she was hired for that reason because she could do that which Ozark can't. And I wish she would take over. And then her daughter was like, yeah, I do too. So Monica was dating a different client. She confided into me why that went afoul. Then she started dating a different client of Lifeboat who tried to, you know, do this beat down attack on my partner. Was known to be slamming meth. They call that slamming is injecting. I just found that out. So he was injecting meth. I just found out he was injecting meth and doing sexual things in the men's room with it, like, just, you know, under a year ago. So now he's been hired by Lifeboat. He was brandishing a dildo at me as sort of like a follow-up to a different man, Zach, sexually harassing me. Zach, who punched out Jules's teeth. I mean, Matt has punched out Sierra's tooth, and then Matt verbally abuses Sierra. Sierra was she was physically assaulted by Jimmy. She was physically assaulted by Matt. And she was physically assaulted by Malachi. Matt, Malachi, and Jimmy are permitted to go to Lifeboat even though they physically assault women. The woman then is pushed out of town. And that use of gender-based violence to push out Lifeboat clients is deeply upsetting to me, and trying to advocate for them when they're being abused and stalked or harassed or verbally abused and all that is just part of why I got kicked out. And because I knew what I was working with. I knew I was working with irrational, volatile, kind of mentally disturbed people. Like the first time I was aware that Ozark Iraq was mentally unsuited for his job was, well, probably in May of 2021 when I heard him saying like kind of dirty potty mouth type things that I was like, whoa, I probably have to tell Aaron Carlson about this. He then preemptively kicked out my partner when he was having a mental collapse, and I was like, okay, so now you're really intolerant and fair and don't understand due process, and really basically maybe just hate me and or my partner. It just, like, the hatred felt very real, and I was like, okay. So I was like, okay, let's give him a chance again after like 5 months of like, oh my god, I can't believe you moved into this horrible facility with this horrible staircase, and now you want all the Beacon Clubhouse people to hang out with all the Filling Empty Bellies people in a closed facility. I was like, I'll give it a try. And so I'm up there, and in like the upstairs, it's like the Kardashians or something. It's just like this reality TV show where they're like, let's take a picture of me being kind to the homeless. It's very like social media performative charity, and that itself was um, obnoxious to certain people that were felt exploited by the let's create this media narrative. And then the neighborhood got up in a swarm, and like one day I go into Beacon Clubhouse and Aaron's like, here's our flyer for a rally against hate. And like it was like every day almost like a war room against the neighborhood, like everything's in a pan. And I was like, how is this even therapeutic or helpful? And I don't like the smell of like cooking meat, so I found that the stink of the meat was downstairs less severe. So I was like, I'll hang out there. And I objected to the two-tiered system where the Beacon Clubhouse has like nice couches and art supplies, and the basement for the homeless is sensory deprivation, no windows, no light, and hard chairs and cold floors, and everything about it is dreary. So I was like, oh, okay, dreary's okay for the homeless. How about I have solidarity with the homeless and go hang with them? And, eventually fall afoul of a bunch of predators, including, all the unreported or barely reported predators, like Jimmy saying he'll punch my face, or one time Keith was basically sexually propositioning me, like, take me home and I'll do anything for you sexually, like, if you just give me somewhere to stay. And, like, no disrespect to survival sex. It's a very real thing that people feel sexually exploited as homeless people, desperate for a couch or something. But yeah, I don't think the victim blaming is a good look. I don't think it's in any way modern. When I went down to Portland recently to get my tooth fixed, which I was so happy about and I'm so broke about, but I had to I got to run in the new facility at Rosehaven. I've been in the old Rosehaven like maybe 8 years ago. I have no idea when. And oh my God, I was blown away. And I found this article on their website about trauma-informed design. Design which is meant to like uplift the soul and awaken a sense of healing. And I think say Lifeboat even continues on their merry way, doing their thing and discriminating and blacklisting people and trash talking people and trying to like cordon off all the resources and prevent low income people from having them while they, just give it to their friends and whatever. They should just definitely check out trauma informed design, and they should also check out what is victim blaming, what is, I don't like this term, whore shaming or slut shaming. Like essentially they really as an organization betrayed their clients by attacking the victims of these sexual attacks and sexual predation by just, one of the things that happens is like, okay, say you're a homeless woman on the street. You come into this facility to eat a meal. You're immediately getting sexually harassed by one ex-boyfriend, one drug dealer rapist, 3 assorted other losers, and then you've got to put up a big front for your survival. That's street smarts. You're very beautiful, okay? Ozark has no compassion for the gender dynamic of a woman who is constantly on survival mode around a bunch of predators, violent, dangerous, disgusting men. So that aggressive front that numerous of the homeless women perform as a safety mechanism is completely misunderstood and used as a way to blacklist, punitize, kick out, and do gender discrimination. He's not making a safe place for the women. He basically is treating them as if their coping mechanism with the horrid circumstances of their homelessness, the sexual harassment, the assaults, the abuse, that their coping mechanisms are then criminalized by him, the male, the abusive male who uses sexual innuendo around the very homeless women. So the Shut up about my harassment. Shut up about your abuser's harassment. Sit there and be a demure and submissive and take it. Be grateful for this meal. Don't complain. Eat a bite of mold. One girl, she ate a bite of mold. She told him, because you think they're open and fair and honest, right? You would assume so. False assumption. Oh, you get no food for a week. No food for a week. I've said a lot about this subject. What's nice to talk about it now is that I've had tons of time away from it. Like, I haven't really thought about it. I've done other things. I've been occupying my mind, but I've talked to some of the new people to town, and some of them have actually lived in real cities where things are done more professionally, and they're just like, this is the most unprofessional organization I have ever seen. And I'm like, would you put that on record? And at the point where nobody wants to speak out on record because they're all beholden to the meal, the free meal, or the paycheck, or whatever. I have loads of guy friends, all of whom are under Ozark's thumb. They are afraid to speak out against his abusiveness. They are permissive about his abusiveness and discriminatory. They will not stand up for me or other women who are poorly treated by Ozark. And I don't really view those men as self-actuated real men. I'm waiting to find one in this little town of Astoria, and I just don't see anyone being man enough to take this on. That you are using the food and the meal denial, the starvation politics, which are evocative of a colonizer mindset, to use starvation as a tool of abuse. I will starve you if you don't shut up. I will starve you if you complain about crimes. I will starve you if you call the cops. I will starve you if you criticize. I will starve you if you and that I was describing to a friend of mine the thing that was most disturbing, even before I knew the extent of the sexual innuendo, or like drug dealer Mark said Ozark tried to rape his girlfriend, or before I even knew he was a meth dealer or had guns and stole a disabled dog and whatever. Before any of that, I was extremely disturbed at the glee, excitement, joy denying meals seemed to give him. I was like, whoa, that is sadistic. That is cruel. That is embarrassing. I can't believe that he's like, no food for you. He gets really excited when he exerts power over the lowest of the low. But many of his clients said to me, let me think, they said he acts like a prison warden. 2 people said that. They said he's barely any better than any of us. He came from the streets. One person, I said, I didn't know he was a drug dealer. Oh, I knew that long ago. So the people who are going in there, they know about his past. And the city doesn't. I mean, the average Joe, the newspaper's covering it up. The Daily Historian is helping, facilitate his, project to conceal his past. But I've heard multiple people call him arrogant. I heard a report he was stealing up on Bond Street, according to a surveillance camera, and that he's currently an active thief and burglar. I have heard reports that he's opening someone's mail and possibly getting in her financial business. She wants to report that to authorities. I don't think it's safe to give your social security number, your medical history, your personal anything about your personal family. Really, he's done things to destroy people's job opportunities by giving bad references. He's got this sort of like, it seems like a malicious streak where he tries to exert power by being cruel to people if they don't facilitate his power agenda. And who wants to be lording it over the homeless in the way he does? It's like, why would you get such a rush out of denying? So he'll, like, for instance, he was starving this woman I know. She's losing weight rapidly. I go to the county and describe that she's losing weight while her predators are allowed to eat at Lifeboat Services. The next I hear is, oh, he's going to let her back again, maybe embarrassing him in the county commissioner's meeting. Provoked him to, oh, so he forces her to sign a contract. Does he force the predators, the violent abusers, the people that have knives, that have guns, that deal dope, does he force them to sign any contract? No, because they're bigger than Ozark and they're scary. And he picks on people who are women, who are disabled, who are smaller than him. He's a pretty small man, but there are people who are smaller than him. He picks on them because those are the people he thinks he can get away with picking on. He tries to give me these like dirty looks on the street occasionally. The last few times he's done it, because I see his routine, that because he's kicked me out for being a whistleblower of his sexual innuendo around the homeless women, he still wants to have his abusive, tyrannical thing with me, which was always giving me dirty looks after he used to be giving me kind of creepy, flirty, like, flirty face, which a bunch of the women say he seems overly flirtatious with them too, which is also creepy in that position. And so he has like a mood swing, and like maybe if you're not into him making flirty faces at you, then he goes on aggro mode against you or has a mood swing or whatever. But he tries to like give me dirty looks on the street, and my technique with him is just to like shake my head like, I see what you're doing, you need to stop that right now immediately. And the body language helps. I've even had him turn away on the street when he comes up on me. So I plan on doing that. And then man, Aaron put this like all religions, all body types, whatever, all races and genders welcome. It's not true. I'm not welcome because I called out sexual harassment. And like my gay friend was cornered in a restroom by Ozark. I reported that as a homophobic bullying incident. That's not welcome either. There's not, like, infallibility is basically what he's trying to. I grew up Catholic, okay? The Pope, this is how the Catholics became like a notorious pedophile crime ring, okay? When you claim infallibility and you are beyond reproach and you're not able to accept criticism and you're not able to try to do better. I mean, Erin did her little embarrassment video after my letter where she basically made him strap his baby to his back and like say, oh, I have PTSD and everything I do is because of Erin, and we were never safe to talk about our mental illness because it was beaten out of us. I was like, okay, yeah. So he's basically can't say apology to me. He can't say I would never discriminate against you because you're being honest and truthful and standing up for the people I bully. But he was forced to do the apology video. So that's, slow, incremental but it was only, a safe face for his ego, and her ego is like, okay, we're going to make him do this kind of safe face video on Facebook or whatever. So, I mean, that's a little bit of incremental growth that he can admit he's not a perfect person, but it's not the same as being fair across the board. Or being, he thinks because he's a private organization, he doesn't have to follow public accommodation law. And in the sense that most of the bureaucratic agencies that would enforce the public accommodation law are drastically behind. Yeah, he's getting away with it. He's absolutely getting away with it. And Clatsop County is full of crooks and idiots. And he's getting away with it. But technically, like the spirit of the law, he is flagrantly abusing the ADA, flagrantly abusing public accommodation law, and probably state and local law too, regarding, just because you are a private entity, if you are a nonprofit, you are required to perform at a certain level of non-discrimination. So he needs to basically get a discrimination lawyer and get, I mean, he could look at me as a friend and say, hey, thanks for pointing this out before I tank my organization. But it sadly seems that he's carrying on with the similar strategies. He hasn't removed his blacklist on me. He tried to like trash talk me to the shelter board. Ron Maxted asked me to be on the shelter board. Ozark went and told Teresa, if Marianne's involved with anything, she cannot ever have anything to do with the shelter. Now look where they are. They're closed down. The homeless are out in the ice and snow. There's a stabbing from a former victim of someone you betrayed. Your client you threw under the bus when he was being assaulted by a Beacon client. It's pretty shady stuff. I'm not saying me being on the board, but Ozark also chased Gigi out of the shelter. So he doesn't like women in any position of power. I mean, he's a raging misogynist is the interpret I'm getting. I mean, it's hard not to see that. Who texted me? I guess this is all for now. This is pretty long.